Okay, so our last game for the show is Yoshi's Island, a Super Nintendo game nominated by @Eric Wellward on Twitter. I'm not going to spell that. It was developed by Nintendo EAD. It was published by Nintendo for the Super Nintendo Super Famicom. The first release of it was August 1995. It is ostensibly a Mario game, but not really.
Very late release SNES game, though.
Yeah, for 1995. Yeah, for sure.
Like, we were all living the high life on
Actually,
PlayStation 1.
to tie things up, this is about the time that Nintendo released its own Lode Runner version for the Satellivision.
Really?
It involved anthropomorphic animals. It was very Sonic-esque.
I just wanted to note a little weird thing Nintendo did with the title here. It's apparently Super Mario World 2, just like how Super Mario Land 3 was Wario Land.
Which I think is a good thing. Like, one thing that people don't understand is that, like, first of all, you should accept the United States, the American Super Mario Bros. 2 as the proper Super Mario Bros. 2.
Please do. The Japanese one is kind of...
Well, the Japanese one is great. Like, you should play that one too, just for, because everybody can play Super Mario Brothers. And once you've mastered that, play Super Mario Bros. 2. Play Super Mario Bros. DX. You have both of them in the same game with some minor physics differences. But the thing is like, Mario is always it's a game series that goes... it had the original game, the classic style, and then it goes crazy for a game, and then it goes back to the classic style, and then it goes crazy again, And this is the crazy one. It's the Super Mario Brothers 2 to Super Mario World's Super Mario Brothers 1. Doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean.
We're following you, but it's very, very tentatively.
Crazy. It's weird. It's wacky.
Well, it removes life bars to begin with.
Right.
Like, you don't have...
Yeah. It's...
Well, like, you don't just get hit and die at this point. Like, it's a weird...
Right. So it's like Super Mario Brothers 2 or Super Mario Brothers USA for our 22 listeners in the nation of Japan, which we have, by the way.
No, it's not. You know what this game is like? This game is like Eek the Cat.
No.
This game is a fucking escort game from start to finish.
I think you're being
wrong.
Evil too soon here. I expected you to wait until 5 minutes to before.
No, I just want to make sure we get the top level.
It's not an escort game because you're not making a path for something to follow. What it is, it's a babysitting game.
It is, yeah. It's
not the same
literally,
thing.
Almost.
Baby Mario rides on your back.
That's the plot. You play as Yoshi, even though it's a Mario game.
It's like Baby's Day Out, where K-Mech is Joe Mantegna.
That's where real good comparison. Really.
Oh my god.
That's right.
I only know
Baby's Day Out reference.
I only know about that because
God damn it.
Joe Mantegna.
Yeah, so we're doing
line delivery of his career. Baby Tracks.
So yeah, you play as Yoshi in a very, very attractive like art style universe, like all crayony.
Yeah, that's actually due to a modified version of the Super FX chip, which was the same technology that Star Fox ran on.
Well, the story is that the pressure was on Nintendo EAD to make a game like Donkey Kong Country, because Donkey Kong Country sold like $1 million or something like that, or whatever. And they're like, make a game like this. And it's like, well, we don't want to make a game that looks like hot garbage. So what they had to do was like, well, let's use our Super FX chip and let's do something different with it. And they made this game, which is probably, along with what's the Kirby game that matches Kirby's Dream Land?
Dreamland 3.
I mean, is in terms of like expansion chip Super Nintendo games with like some of the Mega Man X games and stuff like that. It's an amazing game. It is an amazing looking game, and it has set the style for, I would say, both subsequent Yoshi games that kind of spun off to its own series, but also it kind of defined like Kirby games in a weird way. Like Kirby games always do something different with their visual style too, and not to mention like Super Mario RPG sequels.
Right. So this game, you can definitely see a lot of what this game was visually.
Right, because after this, they were like, well, we don't have to do 2D games anymore. So how do we, if we're going to do a 2D game, how do we make it, something special? And it was like, well, let's just make it crazy acid trip like Fabric kind of thing.
You got fabric, you got paper cutouts, and I mean like literally paper cutouts. Like that's what's Yoshi's story. It's all paper crinkled sort of cutouts and stuff all over the place.
Like
at least
the most, it's like the most arts and crafts friendly acid trip imaginable. I mean, so this game, it is a Mario game for sure. Like whatever they call it, you can't say it's not a Mario game. The difference is that you've got your Yoshi, you're controlling Yoshi and you're not controlling Mario. Mario and Luigi are babies. And they,
and as typical for Luigi, he basically doesn't get to show up.
He doesn't appear until the very end. This is way before the year of Luigi was a thing.
But all right, so you play as Yoshi, who controls similar but kind of has distinct differences to Mario. You get a lot less, like power-ups. He doesn't cycle through a bunch of power-ups. You usually are just playing as Yoshi, and he can run on the air a little bit as opposed to Mario's kind of.
He's got the stomp, which became a Mario staple.
Yeah.
He's got the flutter jump, which did not become a Mario staple, but was kind of based on Luigi's flutter jump in Super Mario Bros. 2. It's got a lot of Super Mario Bros. 2 characters, or Doki Doki Panic characters for you weebs out there.
And
I guess you could say this game canonized a lot of them. Like it actually put them in a game that was not some sort of, because I mean, like until they were put in for sure in a game that they could have ignored.
Okay, so we've got the animate cacti, which were in Super Mario World. You've got the Ninja and Shy Guys, who I think maybe this was the first time they appeared since Mario Brothers 2.
Well, because this is what made them to be Yoshi enemies. They kept appearing for Yoshi past this.
True.
game.
I mean, that's what I mean is like Yoshi continues the trend of Super Mario Brothers 2 or Super Mario Brothers
like
USA.
You can definitely see a lot of similarities in it. The biggest change is obviously you now have like a sort of weird projectile weapon system, which is a different thing to Yoshi in the previous game, because obviously Yoshi just ate shells and then turned into flying
spit them out, or he spit out fire or something. And now you've got this like weird trajectory system. It almost makes it kind of like a billiards game, which is really cool. You can shoot. You've got this like little thing that goes back and forth, and
like they decided
whatever's. Yeah,
they wanted instead of like a sort of basic thing, they wanted to have like almost like a sort of mini game skill system, like very short, instant, like you have to like a timing game in the middle of your game, which is an interesting choice.
Okay, but let's talk about that little game. Using the science of this show. Something we have to take into consideration here is like made future things worse, made other games worse by existing. I think the Yoshi fire a shell or an egg at a thing system was at its time a good use of the Super Nintendo controller, because you've got a finite number of buttons and you don't have a lot of options, so okay, that's fine. They've been married to it since then in a way that I think is to their detriment, because we've got Yoshi's Woolly World just came out last year or this year. It's like, yeah, it's another Yoshi game, whatever. It's, got this terrible dinosaur in it. People like that, I guess. And, there's a right analog stick on a controller. You would think maybe you could use that to just fire shells and, develop maybe a new system. No, they use the same click a button and here's this scrolling reticle thing. I don't know. Like it just seems...
Yoshi has always, like, from this point on, you're right. Yoshi is keeping this system, and they're not removing this system because, at the very least, he has the exact same mechanic, more or less, in Smash Brothers. Even the most recent games, I think, have a variant of it in Smash Brothers. They do tailor it a little bit so that it's not too slow in a fighting game context, but yeah, it's the same basic system. In every Yoshi game, you've got to have this, like, this little mechanic. I like it. I mean, I'm just gonna say that. I like the the timing mechanic, I think it adds a little bit of a different sort of element to a standard platform. Instead you just got to stop and you got to think, you got to time a little bit, and then you keep going. It's like, to me, it's like just a little pleasant little interrupt, because the game doesn't often force you to aim really precisely, really fast, and punish you for it if you screw up. Most of the time, it's like, no, you can take your time. And most of the bosses in this game, they're usually, if you need to throw an egg at them, they take up like half the screen. It's like, if you miss, you're not even trying. You're aiming in the wrong direction at the ground. And
like the bosses animate in really cool ways too as you're hitting them. Like there's that giant slime boss that you're just casting shells into, and it's like deforming it as you're bashing it over and over again.
Right.
And like the game, I can't say bad things about the way this game looks. Some people aren't going to like the aesthetic, and I think that's like a weird, like, I'm a grown man and I can't like things that are cute pushback thing that I just don't.
I'm going to get a face tattoo so everybody will know how serious I am.
How damn
no, the game is gorgeous. Like, there's no denying it. And I think actually, I look, I'm going to criticize this game a lot, but like the things I can't criticize are the way it looks, and I think the music is pretty good. There's not a lot of it.
Yeah, it's really nice and it's really well composed, but certainly there's like 5 or 6 main tracks that I kind of recognize, and
there's less music in this game than in Super Mario World, which does not have a lot of music either.
Like at least it is very good music, so I can't criticize too much. I'd rather not very much of it than just completely forgettable, because at least it's
a Silver Surfer on the NES is the
sure.
What I find interesting about this one is a little bit like Super Castlevania, but a few years later or towards the end of the lifespan. This really actually feels like almost a demo scene game made by Nintendo, because of how much of this game is reliant on either like weird things that the SNES can do or weird things that the new chip that they've put in can do. Because so much of this is like, look at our squash and stretch and rotation, and we actually have lots of sprites on screen sometimes, and we've got all this like background effects that you don't usually sort of see.
And to this day, although they've re-released it several times, they've never been able to re-release the complete game as it was originally because of those special effects. Like especially the touch fuzzy get dizzy.
Like it's like a lot of one-off things. Like, we're going to use this mechanic for exactly one level and then never touch it again.
Which is great, because that actually makes me think of, Xerxes mentioned it, that does feel incredibly like Donkey Kong, which Donkey Kong Country stages are almost all, here's a thing, and you'll never see it again, but it's a thing for this level.
Well, it's like, my understanding is like Yoshi's Island was made somewhat out of spite by Miyamoto, who thought, like, the Donkey Kong Country games, like, he's just like floored that like people are actually buying these. They look like trash, and I'm also not very fond of them.
That's East-West relations for you, huh?
But so his response was, well, I'm going to make my own weird fucking crazy platformer with blackjack and hookers. But yeah, there are definitely parallels between the two.
Yeah, I mean, look, Donkey Kong Country is, if you don't think it's a great game, you're kind of lying to yourself and the world. But this game is much better. I mean, look, you play this game, any version of it, even the ones that don't have all the cool effects in it, it's still pretty damn good. And it is a worthy successor to Super Mario World, and it's not coasting on, it's not just riding in on Mario World's coattails. So, like, it does something new. Just like Super Mario Bros. 2 had the, turnip uprooting mechanic. This has the egg shooting mechanic. I mean, and the levels are very well designed. I mean, I was astonished by how well the levels were for this game last time I played through it. How well designed.
Because this game, does this break a fundamental Mario rule in that there is a lot of moving in different directions across the screen? Like, you don't just go left to right like a lot of the Mario games before that. You often are moving backwards, you're going underground and then back to the side or to another side. There's areas where you just kind of almost, the level is like a loop and you sort of loop around to get to a door to progress to the next area. Like,
well, I mean,
I guess like that gets to my actual core gripe with this game. I spent a lot of time on Giant Bomb, and that's a game that gets, like, Yoshi's Island gets slagged off on that website like all the time. And it's like, I don't want to go that far with it. I've actually played through most of the game, and like, yeah, like the start of the game is fine. Like, there's cool things about it. I think the levels kind of, as the game goes on, the game starts to wallow in some of its own excesses that it has created for itself. I think the levels become a little long, a little labyrinthine, and a little ponderous to go through, especially like there's some like tricky platforming that starts happening, and it's very punitive to die after you've sort of navigated some of the more finicky sections of the like level 4 fucking castle worlds or whatever. And by the time you're in world 5, I think that game starts to rely entirely too much on blind, shitty platforming.
Which is, I agree.
It's criminal how bad it is. Like I
don't agree with that part. But I would say, like, the thing about Yoshi's Island is that it kind of, a lot of the stuff that people don't like about new Super Mario Brothers was pioneered by Yoshi's Island, and that is where I'll agree with you, is that there's like kind of I feel like the level design, especially in the first half of the game, is really, really good. Mm-hmm. But I agree. Like there's a lot of, and it also introduces a lot of the collectathon stuff that people don't like about like current Mario games, especially the new Super Mario Brothers games.
Yeah, although even the Yoshi games like have gotten worse too with those. Honestly, like there's a lot more like blind. Like you need to throw an egg at a 40-degree angle from this specific cliff to unlock the flower in this level or whatever kind of bullshit.
I definitely don't like the sort of invisible hidden flowers that you just literally have to kind of guess that they exist.
And I feel like they were used like kind of judiciously in this one, where I feel like they just got worse as the series went on. So I'm not going to hold that above its head.
In this game, they didn't realize that all of their core audience would be obsessively searching for those things.
Yeah,
they didn't know.
There's not much of a reward for actually getting everything in this original version of this game, right?
No, and they didn't know that people were going to be like that. What you're doing is you're kind of holding against it. Like what we know now is that, oh no, the people who play new Super Mario Brothers games in that series are people who want to get every red coin. They want to get every little hidden whatever thing, and they'll be upset if you cheat them, if you don't make this fair. I'm not sure that they really accommodate those concerns nowadays, but my point is that Yoshi's Island, they didn't know that. They just put those things in. It's like, oh, here's something extra. It's kind of like the, Kong letters in Donkey Kong Country. It's like something extra to get. Nobody cares about getting all the letters in a Donkey Kong Country stage because it's not a Mario game. So, it doesn't have that kind of like, I've got to master this kind of thing. And they didn't know that about Yoshi's Island when they made it. So I think those things are really meant to be obscure because they were like, well, you can still finish the stage without finding this. It's fine. And now they know better, and they kind of still do that stuff, which is less forgivable. But
well, now they include it because, if the games are only 5 or 6 hours long, they're like, well, okay, if you want to play it for 20 hours, here's some really, really hard to find crap so that you can stick around for longer.
True. Where do we want to put this? Let's talk about that.
My opinion on this is it has the inglorious distinction of being the best Yoshi game. So
I'm not sure.
Honestly, it goes above
Yoshi game scale. I would say Wool World might actually the Woolly Yoshi one might actually, in my opinion, come out better. Mostly because it has co-op, and that's a lot of fun.
I would consider playing that. I think it looks visually arresting. And it's always nice to have an excuse to play something on the Wii U.
But okay, so for this one,
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking like I'm thinking between Alien Soldier and Castlevania 4. I know Satenga's gonna first he's going to give birth to some kind of hard square object, and then
no, hang on. I really love this one growing up playing it, and for the most part I still think it does hold up. Although I will admit some of the criticisms here have been valid. Like, I'm not as fond of the collectathon thing, and that's why I play Super Mario World higher. But regardless of whether or not they're tougher, I do think that the levels have more personality than anything that you would see in Super Mario World. And if not just as an art piece, I think this game is magnificent. And it doesn't hurt that I think the gameplay below it is pretty solid too.
Well, I don't think anyone here would disagree in terms of as far as SNES games go, this one is probably worth booting up and at least playing through a bit to really get the visual style and kind of the general feel for what it is. Like you like especially the early stages are pretty nice. Like they're pretty great. The longer you get into the game, the more it's like, oh, do I really want to keep playing this? Like that's where you can start to tail off. But it's solid enough for in a lot of ways, especially for a casual playing experience.
Absolutely worth, like, I don't know, I feel like it is part of a complete like NES collection of like essential things to show someone, just as a visual showcase if nothing else. Like it's personally, I would put it Jesus, I don't think it's as good as Outrun 2006.
What? Oh no. Hey, let me say something. We're familiar with the Twilight Zone episode I Am the Beholder, right?
Yeah.
Jeff, I think you're the normal person who's trying to fit in with us pig-faced Yoshi's Island fans. You're not going to win this fight. I hate to tell you.
Yeah, and I'm realistic about that.
Well, the real question is what Cal thinks.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, yeah, like
because I'm willing to place it wherever you guys are as long as it's high. I think it does deserve a lot of accolades.
I'm not gonna fight too much.
It's really hard because for me, I don't know if anyone has. I haven't revealed this. I really, really, really like Yoshi as a character. He's one of my favorite video game characters.
I've got no problem with the dino.
I find the ridiculous cutesy lizard dino.
Your attraction to Yoshi has been noted.
Thank you. And the issue is, for me, it's like I gotta kind of like place this game that I don't super love. I like the character more than the game. So I don't know. I'd put it somewhere around Full Throttle is for me, somewhere around there.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's where I would personally put the overall
I could kind of live with that, honestly.
Well, mostly because if you go through the hierarchy of Mario games and platformers in that vein, what you have is this game is a must-play for visuals, must-play for like a few of its little cutesy gimmicks and things, but it's not, like, of all of them, it's not the one that you really gonna go like, yeah, I'm gonna finish this whole game, I'm loving every stage, I'm loving everything. It's like, no, you like it, and you're like, huh.
I have to
sort of walk away.
I have to pitch in a point of order here. Are we going to rate Yoshi's Island lower than Super Mario Land?
Super Mario Land is an outlier.
No, it is not.
It's an outlier.
If you want to
on the
distinguish
list.
Super Mario Land, you say Super Mario Land is a Super Mario Bros. Game for the Game Boy. And on those criteria alone, it succeeds. It is a huge...
Obviously, if you could get Yoshi on portable compared to Super Mario Land when Super Mario Land was its own thing. Because the thing is, the portable versions of Yoshi's game here, I don't think that they work as well because the tinier screens and the sort of like little changes they make, I don't think they work. Like, this game wants a big screen. All the effort they've put into it, all of the details and styles, when you shrink that down to a tiny screen, you don't get it, you lose it.
Sure, and like that GBA port of Yoshi's Island, I cannot even imagine touching. Like, that fucking level where you're going up like the ski lifts or whatever, which is where I have stopped and will never play any more Yoshi's Island as long as I live, by the way. Fucking nightmare on an actual television. Cut my vision any more than that and just make it totally just piss in the dark blind. Fucking no way.
Okay, so let's divide this up. Me and Satinga are on the upper half. Satinga, where are you thinking? Like, I can't remember what I said. I think I said between
Alien Soldier and Super Castlevania 4. Well, if it's going to appease the critics any, I'm going to say between Space Harrier and Crash Bandicoot 2.
So that's where your heart wants to put it? That's where you want it to go?
Like I'm saying, because right now we're in a coin flip scenario as long as you don't put it below where I put it.
I think I agree with Satanga. Because it's lower than Space Harrier. I'm happy
to talk about this. Like, I'm happy to talk about this. So just like, where would you put it? And then we can work it out. Because if you think, if that's where you want it, I'm not opposed to that. It is a good game. It just depends what everyone thinks on it.
We're saying below Space Harrier, above Crash Bandicoot 2.
To be honest, I'd probably put it below Crash Bandicoot 2, and that's partially because Crash Bandicoot 2 is one of the best Crash Bandicoots. This is not one of the best Marios. Like,
But it's not strictly a Mario game.
As long as it's, I am malleable with the placement as long as it's above Super Mario Land. Nothing against Super Mario Land. I think it's a great game.
Okay, can you agree with me? It's above Crash Bandicoot 2, please.
I will.
This guy
in this case.
has it in for Crash Bandicoot. Every time, you just gotta suck a
in
punch.
for mediocre game.
He doesn't even have a shirt.
We are not discussing Crash Bandicoot 2 right now. Okay, I just have to order Muppet that. Just Xerxes, I will concede with your placement. I have no complaints.
Okay, we know how Cal thinks.
Yeah.
What is Jeff?
Space Harrier is better than Yoshi. I'm okay with it.
Okay, all right.
This is a science
perfect. We hit it without many arguments. Oh my god, this was smoother than Riven somehow.
Below Space Harrier, above Crash Bandicoot 2. Suck it, Crash.
Ironic.
Poor Crash, man. There's people who are gonna be like, this is I can't handle this. I'll never listen to you guys again because
first he's not in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, and now this fuck life.
But you know, like, look, I don't mind that much. You know, like, as far as it goes, it's a great SNES game. It may not be the best, most playable SNES game, but it is a solid thing, and it's, at least as a game, there's not many games that are kind of capture this style of what it is. Well, I don't know exactly what it is, but, you know, it's got that really nice late SNES 2D enhanced with the power of a different chip style, which is really cool, and that's nice. I do like that. It
looks really clean. I think the first half of the game is pretty damn good. Like, there's a lot of really nice things I can say about Yoshi's Island. I just think it's become inflated over the years. And to put it in the correct spot, below Space Harrier, feels very good.